Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends. And if you think that's the only musical reference you're going to get tonight, you are way, way off the mark. My name is Brian Trippett. I am the Front Porch Conservative. Welcome back for the first ever back to back session of Chattin on the Porch. As Dr. John once sang in a song, such a night. Oh my goodness, this is going to be a load of fun. We're going to give everybody a couple or 3 minutes to slip into the room because this is going to be an epic meeting. Um, I've discovered something in social media so far in my brief time as being an active participant and creator in it, that certain things have to have their own timing in order to come about. And you're going to understand what I'm getting at when I bring my guest on. So we're going to let people slip into the room. And yeah, this is going to be a load of fun. So let me start dropping the intro music, which, by the way, for anybody who's curious, I love this piece of music. It's called Reasons to Hope. It's by an individual named Reed Mathis. I found it on YouTube Music Studio, and I love the piece of music. It's very, very upbeat, very hopeful. And so we'll go ahead and start dropping the volume. As I say, there are things that happen in social media that in some cases are purely a matter of timing. My next guest, he and I have known of each other. We were on a live stream together. I believe it was Dangerous Rhetoric. We were both invited to it one night. And before it was all said and done, we said, sooner or later, one of us has to come on the other person's channel and do some talking. And, time goes by, things happen. And finally, I think it was maybe last week, one of us saw something on someone else's Twitter page, responded to it, and said, when are we going to get together and finally do this thing? And it's like, all right, I'm good for this night. You good for this night? Yeah, I'm good for it. What time you want to do it? Let's do it this time. And here we are. My next guest is somebody who, for some of you, is no stranger. For a lot of you, you're going to enjoy meeting this man because he brings any number of different things to the table, aside from the fact he's one of God's creatures. And on that accord alone, he deserves respect. He is a singer, he is a songwriter. He is someone who is laying down truth on any number of different subjects at a time when truth is very hard to come by. He is brutally honest and a fierce defender of the right to freedom of speech. Ladies and gentlemen, I could go on giving accolades about this man the blessed day long, but I'd be depriving you of the opportunity to meet one of the coolest cats in all of social media. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the inestimable Peter Feliciano. Peter, welcome to the front porch.
Thank you for having me, sir. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Hello. Welcome. Very grateful to be here, sir.
Oh, no. It's my pleasure indeed to have you here. I mean, like I said, we've been stepping around each other for the longest time now. And it's like I said, we kept saying to each other, like, one of us really ought to come on the other guy's channel and we just are doing something. It's like, and then, you had that tweet and I think I responded to it and you said, when are we going to do something? It's like, damn it, you're right. Let's do something. I mean, for the love of God, this is crazy.
I
So,
just figured you were racist. That's why you kept me from. You don't like half spicks. That's the problem.
No. I love my Puerto Rican people. They mow my grass every weekend, daggone. They do a fabulous job. And I'm going to tell you the same thing I told Harlow. I give it as good as I get it. So just come on, just bring it on.
That's the way to do it. See, that's what I like about, like, number one, real dudes, and number two, people like, who aren't of this modern generation. It's said to death these days, but like motherfuckers without a sense of humor are in charge of the university, are in charge of media, are in charge of Hollywood, are in charge of literally creating the things that we call comedy. Are in charge of media, our governments and all this bullshit. I think ultimately we're done. Hang on one second.
Continue. No, that's fine. Take time. No, I'm just doing my thing here, just making a couple little things happen. So pop that back. Oh, whoop. Boomer. I've already boomered it. We're less than 5 minutes into this thing.
It's on brand.
Yeah, it's so okay. Many people know you on social media. For those who are watching this live stream and maybe they're not familiar with you, what's your backstory? I mean, because as I understand it, you are one of those refugees that escaped New York City. But did you grow up there? Where did you grow up? Tell me about your family. Tell me about your background.
So, yeah, half Puerto Rican, the other half is German, English, and a little bit of black on both sides. All Puerto Ricans are part black, just in the penis. Um,
Alrighty then.
I got to keep selling it. You got to always be closing. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, is that what the secret to it is? Okay, all right.
Um, so anyway, so I grew up in Long Island. I was born in Long Island, but I moved out to the Bay Area in California when I was about 9 years old. Lived out there for most of my life, kind of bouncing around the South Bay, and then headed down to let's see, the San Bernardino, Southern California area in about 2002 to 2004. I got sober down there. I got sober at 15 years old. I've been sober since then.
Congratulations.
And then I went back to the Bay for a couple of years or for a while, and then moved to New York in essentially right before the pandemic. I literally signed my lease, and 2 days later, the city got shut down. I lost my job. We were all going to die. Blah 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 blah.
Oh, wow.
I spent the entirety of the next 2.5 years essentially there, waiting for New York to pull its head out of its ass. I mean, don't get me wrong. During the beginning of the pandemic, I was just as fooled, and I'll get to my political stances. But you know, we all have dupe in our past. You know, we've all been duped.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
And I'm not above that. But eventually I woke up and I was like, hey, this is just another extension of the bullshit. Okay, great. All right. So I waited around. Eventually I couldn't perform. I'm a singer-songwriter, also a producer, and yes, podcaster and all this other stuff too. But that's my main love, is making music and performing. And I couldn't perform because I didn't have a certain chemical in my body. And eventually I was just, okay, even after the mandates ended, I was just like, you know what? New York is not New York anymore. And this isn't right for me to be here. I'm tired of paying $3,000 fucking dollars for a studio apartment on the Upper West Side. And so I left and I came to Austin in July of last year, and much happier, much lighter, already performing. And it's just a chiller place. I know a lot of people who aren't from Austin say it's a very blue city. I came from New York and San Francisco. Comparatively, it is not really a blue city. It's quite a libertarian city, if you ask me. Because I mean, you can what humanizes, this is part of the problem with San Francisco and New York. There's a lot.
Okay.
But the diagnosis is, and I always kind of my penchant, my interest is always the psychology behind it. When you don't know a certain type of person, you can dehumanize them. And dehumanize looks like putting people below, but it also looks like putting people above, right?
Mm-hmm.
So similarly, in New York and in New York City, Manhattan specifically, and in San Francisco, there is like maybe 5 black people. So I mean, there's more in New York, but there's such the white liberal in the Upper East Side, the white liberal in San Francisco in the Mission District, the white liberal doesn't have access to black people, so they're put on a pedestal, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's, they're dehumanized. So why would you of course, the only access to black culture that they have, which is not a monolith either, but the only access they have is through, the Black Lives Matter account that they follow on Instagram, right?
Mm-hmm.
So same thing goes in New York and San Francisco. There is no access to someone who appreciates firearms, right? There is no access to someone who voted openly for Donald Trump in 2020 or even 2016. There is no access to a different type of person. And when that happens, they are now dehumanized, right? So they're in the flyover states. We're, fucking our cousins.
The
right?
deplorables, yeah, the basket of deplorables. Yep.
And in Austin, even though there are pockets of Democrat policies for sure, even though there are certainly some white hipsters, you throw a rock in any direction and you hit a good old boy, right? They literally have to have signs up at the shitty hipster coffee bar that say, please don't bring your gun in here. So it humanizes the other side to the point where they can't lock down, they can't be authoritarian as the left is wont to do, right? Anyway, so this is definitely an extension of my personality. I just go on tangents,
Oh, go right. No, dude. I mean, I tell all my guests all the time. The way I look at it is this: it's almost like taking a really good racehorse to a gate. You swing it open for him, and you let this horse see a wide open field. And all you got to do is just give it one, yeah, and let him take off and go. That's the way I look at it. So tangent all you want to, talk all you want to. We're here for it.
Fantastic. Thank you. What's your real name, by the way?
I tell you, but I have to kill you. No, my
Yeah.
name's Brian.
Okay. Thank you. So I don't want to say like, you know what I'm saying? The front porch conservative. I was like, yeah.
Porch.
When you follow people,
Yeah.
when you follow people online, there's a disconnect there. Anyway, so as far as an extension to my background, so my parents, I come from a long line of musicians. My dad is a Grammy nominated horn arranger and writer and performer. He plays every type of horn and multiple other instruments, piano, and sings and all kinds of stuff. And he's still out in the Bay kicking butt, and actually I think is about to release another salsa album. And he's the Puerto Rican. And my ma, piano teacher, big into music theory, great voice, so me and I have three brothers. So when me and my brothers were growing up, music was just, it's trite, but music was a part of our household. We all played instruments, we all sang, we all, talked about music and listened to music constantly in many different types of genres. I remember even my dad, who it's probably like 97, and we're in a car driving around the hills in the Bay Area, and and I remember, you always want to see your parents kind of naturally as like, oh, they're the cringe, they're the adults, they're out of touch, blah, blah, blah. But my dad is listening to Nirvana, you know what I mean? And we're like listening along, we're like, oh yeah, he's okay. He's not that bad. So anyway, music was a big part of my life. And I think I wrote my first official song when I was about 15.
Oh, wow.
And and from there it kind of flowered. I mean, I did get sent away to the boarding school treatment center where I got sober. So that kind of derailed some of the music thing for a little while. But essentially, me and music have been pretty tight since. And I think I've always been a rebellious person. Anytime, long before I got red pilled, whatever, I was in a position where I remember saying to someone, anytime the majority takes one stance on something, I immediately take the opposite. And looking at it now, I'm 37 years old, so I'm not a spring chicken necessarily, but like I don't think I'm a contrarian for contrarian's sake. But anytime everybody gets swept one direction, it makes me pause. And so I remember I was writing hooks for rappers in the Bay Area and performing all over the Bay Area and stuff in 2017, 2016, 2015. And I'd go and I'd listen to these rappers rap about social justice-y things, and I'd kind of get bored. I'd kind of get annoyed. I mean, I've liked, subversive humor for a long, long time. And anybody who was against that then you're against me. You're against the stuff that gives me life. So why the fuck would I give you any more of my attention than necessary,
Exactly.
Anyway, so I remember I was thinking about something but I had in 2016, I had voted for Bernie and then begrudgingly voted for Hillary. I did very little research on either of those things. But when Trump won, an ex-girlfriend called me that night and she was like, "Oh my God," and she's crying and, worried and, "Oh my God," and blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking to myself, even though I didn't vote for the guy, I didn't like the guy, I'm thinking to myself, like, I don't think we're all going to die. Like, it's just the president. Like, this is not, like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of insulation between us and that. Um, that little seed germinated for a couple months. And I remember maybe 5, 6 months later, I was watching, this was around about the time, 2017 area, that everybody was talking about how Milo Yiannopoulos was the devil, right? That Milo Yiannopoulos is an anti-Semite and he's Jewish, and he's homophobic and he's gay, and like all this stuff. And I remember, that rebellious little streak popped up, and I was like, you know what? Let me watch one video for my own self. Fuck it. And as soon as I watched that one video, I just fell into a rabbit hole on YouTube for literally 48 hours of Milo Yiannopoulos, Ben Shapiro, Steven Crowder, Jordan Peterson, and Camille Paglia.
Whew, that's pretty wide ranging. That goes all over the spectrum.
Right. Now, again, in my defense as well, because
In my defense,
I don't give a fuck about Steven Crowder or Ben Shapiro anymore.
Sure.
They're boring as fuck. Even Jordan, to me, like, I'll dip my toe in every once in a while, but for me, I don't know what stuff speaks to you when it speaks to you. But those were the gateway drugs for me of going, like, because as soon as I watched Milo, I was like, I think I mostly agree with this guy. Right. And that's why I believe our egos or our fear or whatever you want to call it protects us from, subconsciously, unhealthily, protects us from doing the research, protects us from, if I break this seal, I don't know what's going to happen. So I'd rather stay in the uncomfortability and the insanity and the hypocrisy of, modern day liberalism, rather than how would I act if thinking differently didn't make me a grandma killer? How would I act? What would it mean if I was free to do whatever I wanted to do without racism or transphobia? Blah, 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 blah. And as soon as you break that seal, flood. And I've seen that happen a lot. I remember I was anyway, let me finish this point. So suffice it to say, I became conservative or whatever, I guess. About a year later, I'm kind of getting bored with playing music, or at least the way I was doing it, which is I would go once or twice a week to some wine bar or a sports bar or a wedding or this or that and just play covers for 2-3 hours. It was fucking boring, right? And I was having fun, don't get me wrong, especially towards the end when everybody's drunk and whatever. But there were so many gigs where it was, the Warriors game is on and I'm singing fucking, Take on Me. Fucking.
Oh,
And listen, and I like that song and I have fun playing it, but I'm literally, the way I play, if anyone has seen my music, I don't fuck around with no, easy shit. I'm lots of energy, and that's the way I like to do it. Don't get me wrong, but I'm providing energy, and the people, God bless them, I'm sure they're wonderful, blah, 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 are not giving me a fucking thing back. So I was feeling zapped, and I was feeling annoyed also with the process of writing my own stuff, because I don't want to be relegated to two verses and a chorus about what I want to say. You can tell already 5, 10, 20 minutes into the show that I like to talk. You know what I mean? I like to talk.
No, really? I hadn't gathered that.
Subscribe right now.
Exactly. Get on this man's channel, daggone it.
So I was like, you know what? What if I started a podcast? How would that look? And so I started my show Conservatish in August, September of 2018. And the main goal of the show in the beginning was just to speak freely, to hold a safe space for free speech and fucked up humor. And it also turned into, especially those early shows, turned into humanizing the often dehumanized, right?
Yeah.
So that made a lot more sense in the beginning because I was in the Bay Area. And, I'm having these people on who sometimes disagree with me, and we're just talking about music or comedy or sex or love or spirituality or, and quite naturally finding common ground. And also, abuse survivors and talking about the complexity and the nuance behind surviving trauma and stuff like that. But I remember quite in the beginning, especially about, I think it was episode 12, I was going to have a Proud Boy on. All right. This was like
Okay.
2018.
Okay.
I reached out to the Bay Area Proud Boys and gotten an answer back. And so I tell my audience or my followers, hey, I'm going to have a Proud Boy on. And a couple people took quite umbrage to it, right? They're racist. You're giving a platform for white supremacy. And most of the people, I think it was only probably like 5 people who were upset by it. And I was like, first things first, almost all of the people who took umbrage with me having this guy on are white. Number 2, I'm Puerto Rican. Like, would I genuinely actually have an actual white supremacist on? Like, I mean, no, I probably wouldn't. Like, right? And number 2, the Proud Boy was a full-blooded Mexican, right? So
Yeah, exactly.
I was trying to, just like I sometimes do now, where it's just like, I'm trying to present humanity. And it's gone through a lot of different phases. It's gone through, I've had socialists on my show, and I've had, dirtbag hippies on my show, and I like melding it and following my own spirit with it. I'm on a break from it at the moment. I'll be coming back this upcoming Monday, I believe. And I'll maybe talk about that, but I'll just end this by saying, it's flowered my life. If anyone's afraid of speaking up because I'm going to lose people, the people that you lose are probably not your real friends. And the people you will gain by telling the truth will be deep. I know from personal experience, deep, much more solid friendships and relationships than I've had I not had the show, had I not spoken up. So anyway, that's my background, I guess.
Oh, and ladies and gentlemen, now you see why I wanted to have this man on the show, because I've got 2 pages of notes already of stuff I want to, like, just off of that one answer. I'm like, God, okay. All right. So now, if you just happen to be dropping in, and we're always glad to have you here, my name is Brian Trippett. I'm the Front Porch Conservative. This is Peter Feliciano of Conservatish. Gosh, okay. So you're in the Bay Area, it's in the San Bernardino area, and then you go to New York City. Everybody who goes to the Big Apple, sooner or later, they're able to articulate the reason that drew them there. So I want to kind of do a round trip here. What drew you to the Big Apple? What made you leave the Big Apple? And why Austin?
So what drew me to New York was the music. There was no music, and there still isn't any real culture in San Francisco. Hasn't been for probably 20 years.
Now, that's surprising.
Right? The
Yeah.
only this is the weird part about San Francisco, is that they're big on how much we're a melting pot. No, everywhere is a melting pot. It's 2023. Oh, we're so much culture. No, not anymore. Not since the 80s. Maybe 90s. Yeah, okay. Gays get a shot, but outside of that, there's no diversity in there. All the black people moved to Oakland. All the artists moved to Oakland and then eventually left. There hasn't been culture in the Bay Area for a very long time. There's been tech, but yeah. So I was wasting away musically over there, and I was tired of it. And so I came to New York with the idea that not only did I originally spring from there, but also I was going to be able to perform, and it was going to be competitive. But I'm really fucking good, so
and modest about it too, folks.
Yeah, and very humble.
Exactly.
And I was prepared for the fight. I knew it was going to be down and dirty. What I didn't anticipate was that it had already kind of become San Francisco. What I didn't anticipate was that COVID was going to happen, and that was going to exacerbate the San Francisco-ness of Manhattan so much worse.
Mhm.
So I stuck around New York for a little while, but to this day, yeah, mandates haven't been around for a while, but you know. So I remember a video. I moved away in July of 2022. A friend sent me a video from. He was on Broadway in the Upper West Side, somewhere in the 70s, 80s streets, and he took a picture and sent me a collage or a montage of, I want to say, probably 30 people wearing masks outside in May, might have been April. Yeah, in May. Which, when it wasn't like, remember, like a month ago, it was like, oh, COVID spike. It wasn't even a COVID spike. It was just people wearing masks
Oh
outside.
yeah,
That's what they do,
yeah.
right? And so, yeah, so I share that to say New York's not New York anymore. It hasn't been for a long time. They're
Mhm.
pricing out all the real New Yorkers and all the people, shitbag tech nerds from Connecticut, shitbag tech nerds from San Francisco, shitbag tech nerds from all these other places. People who make money, who can afford Manhattan, who are very pliable, right? They're not very masculine. They're just, again, it's San Francisco 2.0.
Mhm.
And the art's gone, unless Broadway, but even Broadway, you still have to have a certain type of chemical in your body. And it's just like, why the fuck, I'm not sticking around waiting for New York to pull its head out of its ass. Austin felt like the right fit, and for now it's the right fit, because music and culture are very alive in Austin, and culture, and it's a growing city, and it's a growing city with a bunch of transplants from New York and San Francisco and LA. But a lot of New York, a lot of Texans, rightfully so, are like, hey, don't Californicate our state. No, bro, we're bringing reinforcements. Like, we're tired of where we came from, and we're going to help Texas stay Texas.
It's funny you mentioned it about Austin. Among various genres of music that I love, one of them is country music, and not modern country music, for the love of God. I mean, like, now, if you talk to my mother, she grew up on Hank Williams Sr., Hank Snow, Lefty Drizel, etc.
Mm,
Me, I grew up on George Jones, Merle Haggard, Waylon and Willie. Now that gets to Waylon and Willie. In the late 60s, early 70s, there was the Nashville Sound, as it came to be called, which was exemplified by music producers like Chet Atkins and many others. It was a very homogenous, safe, non risk taking form of music. Well, when Willie Nelson got to Nashville, I mean, this is Willie. If you saw old pictures of Willie Nelson, short haircut, clean cut, no beard, nothing, you would never recognize the man. He hated it. He hated what Nashville was, and then he went down to Austin.
mhm,
Well, his good buddy at the time was Waylon Jennings, and Waylon was suffering under the same thing in Nashville. And the story goes, Willie called him and said, "Waylon, get down here. There's something going on in Austin that is just amazing." So here comes Waylon Jennings. He gets down there and meets a bunch of Texas hippies. And the first thing he says is, "Where's that son of a bitch, Willie Nelson? I'm going to beat the shit out of him for bringing me down
mhm,
here."
mhm,
But they realized together, oh my God, we've got the freedom to do what we want musically. And they birthed the outlaw movement in country music,
mhm,
which went on to many wonderful, interesting, different things. And I mean, granted, I must admit, and it's to my regret, I have not yet been to Texas in my travels, but
mhm,
man, I am dying to get down there because, and stop me where I'm wrong. Why does it feel like, for any number of reasons, Texas is almost like its own refugee state?
mhm,
Be it music, be it people wanting to get away from the madness that was COVID, be it people wanting to live under a certain measure of freedom that they are particularly desiring. I mean, you bring up Californians. I hear the same thing from Texans about people coming from California. Don't you dare bring your crap over here. The funny thing about it is, I mean, there's some various people I follow. One of them's a pollster, and he'll tell you most of the people leaving California, Oregon, Illinois, Jersey, New York, they're not lefties. They might be moderate at best, all they want is just low taxes and reasonable amount of freedom. And the way you're describing Austin makes perfect sense to me, because I got friends of mine who grew up in Texas, and they'll tell you Austin's probably one of the coolest places in the world because it's just so eclectic.
Right.
It's probably the best word to describe it.
Right.
You know.
No, that fits in with what my reflection would be, because yes, so like here's an example. I remember I was visiting in May of 2022 to feel out whether or not it was the right place. And I was visiting a friend who also lives, she's a musician, and her and her husband they're musicians, and they play all over the place. And I'm visiting, and she's like, okay, it's like a Wednesday. She's like, here's a couple shows that we might go to tonight. Choose one. And I was like, a couple shows? Like that
What?
doesn't exist. Right. That doesn't exist in San Francisco for sure. And it doesn't exist in New York either. So I was bowled over by that. And we went to this late night, I want to say like at 9 o'clock, 8:30, 9:30 show. It was this tiny little place, but this jazz trumpeter, Ephraim Owens, incredible musicians, all of them on the stuff. I love jazz too, but like listening to them play, it was incredible. And it was pretty well attended. And it was a Wednesday at 9 p.m. So
wow.
People actively seek going and doing shit here, right? Mm-hmm. And some of that is the weather, and some of that is just the culture. And when people come here from other places, they want to get integrated. The problem, Austin is at a bit of a crossroads, because a lot of the people who are coming are also not politically leftist. They're just, this is the psychology thing. They're dorks.
Define dork.
Nerd. They're we're not going to get racist, but we are going to get a little racial. It's white and Indian, mostly nerds from Bay Area people. And this is, I was joking around about it when I first moved here. I'm like, Austin, I come from the future. I saw what killed New York. I saw what killed San Francisco. Mm-hmm. It was money, sure. But money does something a little sticky to people. It's not just, okay, all the rich motherfuckers get together. It's a lot of people want to be involved, right? I was thinking about this earlier today. Brad Pitt and Quentin Tarantino have been famous and powerful in Hollywood for a long fucking time.
Yep.
And both of them tell a story about finding out that Harvey Weinstein did something bad to someone they love, and they felt like punching him in the fucking face and were stopped. And they didn't say anything. For years, two of the most powerful, well-known men in Hollywood said nothing out loud about Harvey Weinstein, right? To the press anyway, to the public. All right. What does that tell me? That tells me that money is power. Power does something weird to us, right? Human. Mm-hmm. And when you have tech money, that attracts people who are good at tech. And let's be honest, tech people are socially inept, right? You bring these malleable, amenable, just very acquiescent motherfuckers all together into a room, and an abuser who has a D next to his name or an R, whatever. Yeah. An abuser will sniff out acquiescent motherfuckers and manage them, right? So we have the tech nerds swaying in the wind of the manager, and managers are frequently, not always, frequently malevolent cunts, right? So, but even worse, this is something I always talk about, like, at least when I was growing up, bullies didn't have the fucking gall to bully under the guise of virtue. Mm-hmm. Now we have bullies under the guise of virtue. And And so these tech, why I say it's at a crossroads is Austin has this influx of tech nerds. God bless them. I'm happy that other people have different interests. Yay for engineers. But we have these people coming into this town who could be swept away and taken by the ear, especially because they work for Salesforce, Tesla, all these companies, these big corporations. Corporations don't give a fuck, right?
Mhm.
Whoever's at the head, who has the bankers kicking up his ass and the investors kicking up his ass to put his arm behind his back and say, post Black Lives Matter because that's what everybody's telling you to do, right?
Mhm.
They're going to implement DEI. They have to, right?
Yeah.
Because money is holding them hostage. So why I say it's at a crossroads is because, yeah, it has a lot of us refugees. It has a lot of us reinforcements bringing Texas to try to keep Texas, Texas. But it also has a lot of watery, limp motherfuckers who are coming into town who don't care, who are apolitical essentially, but can be browbeaten into being leftist, can be browbeaten into implementing DEI, whether they believe in it or not. They'll just become people who believe in it. And that's what happened to San Francisco. Money attracted the engineers, attracted the acquiescent cunts.
I really wish you'd tell me exactly what you think, because daggone it, I feel like you're holding back on me. I mean, I just, I feel like you're stifling yourself, and I don't want that. I want the full expression that's on your mind.
Mhm.
Oh goodness! If you are just dropping by, my name is Brian Trippett. I'm the Front Porch Conservative. This is Peter Feliciano. We are at the beginnings. This is kind of reminding me of a scene from what's that film? And Justice for All, where Al Pacino goes off on a rant
Mm.
in his opening statement in the courtroom, and the rant is so bad, the judge is clearing everybody out. It's bedlam, and as they're dragging Pacino out the back door, he says, and he gets loose, so the guards are taking him out into custody to throw him in for contempt. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was my opening statement.
Mm.
So that's kind of where we are with this.
Mm.
Oh
Well,
gosh.
I have a lot of pressure built up. I haven't done an episode of Conservatism in like a month. So
Well, dude, if we can help you, if we can help you, like drop the pressure levels, we'll be let it flow, baby.
thank you.
Conservatish. All right, let's get into this. I've heard all kinds of terms to describe people's politics. I've heard liberal. I've heard conservative. I've heard libertarian. I've heard anarchist. I've heard anarchist libertarian. I've heard anarchist communist. I've heard communist. I've never heard conservative-ish.
Right.
So for people who are watching this now and future, because bless everybody's hearts, they're going to send out messages on Twitter and tell their friends to get in here, because this is just too good not to be seen live. If you had to decide, yeah, I got to work it too, man. I got to work at every angle I got. I'm a one
Tell
man
them
band.
if you don't share that we're doing this show right now, you're racist.
If you don't share, Peter's going to call you racist. Okay, so there you go.
I'm a Latinx.
He's look at that face. He's sweet and innocent. Look at that. So anyway, if you had to define for someone who's never met you before, never come across your stuff, what is conservative-ish?
Well, it's a weekly
Well,
program. It's a weekly program, but besides that, it's I don't even know if it's that's the thing is I don't even know where my political label is, and I think that's more healthy personally. The reason why I called it that was, I was thinking the Peter Feliciano show, I was thinking all kinds of things, and then conservatish just kind of came to me, um, and one of the taglines in the beginning was like, "Can't I like gays and guns? Like, do I have to pick a fucking side?" Right now, part of that label, conservatish, I wouldn't even call it my political stance, but I would say that it is tongue in cheek intentionally, because I'm not saying that conservatives that I know are against gays. Like, that's part of the tongue in cheek for me, is that, okay, you have this label, you're approaching this show, whatever, with this label. You want to know where my fucking stance is. I'm not going to give it to you. You have to come and get it. Right.
mm-hmm. Yep.
And Unfortunately, that's the slow game. I mean, I always say, God bless, whatever in the beginning, Steven Crowder and Ben Shapiro for being a gateway drug for me. But I'm not beholden to anybody. I don't even
Right.
have a fucking sponsor on my show. You know what I mean? Like, and I could, don't get me wrong, I'm whatever, but I'm not big enough. Number one, I'm so fucking shadow banned and censored. It's insane. But at the same time, I kind of like the freedom to just be able to say foul shit and to defend people on the left sometimes and to call out conservatives sometimes and to call out everybody. My politics mostly these days can be boiled down to, like a lot of us, leave me the fuck alone. You know, just don't tell me what to do with my body, with my kids, with my wallet, and with my mouth. And outside of that, another some person in another state wants to do something with their own body. Fine, cut that dig off. I don't care. You know what I mean? What? Yay for you. And I'll even call you. I don't give a fuck if a friend of mine is like, "Hey, I'm changing my gender." I'm like, "Okay, I'll do my best." You know what I mean? I know trans motherfuckers. Um, it's the abuse that I'm acutely attentive to, because we've all faced trauma. Even if it was just bullying in grammar school, but I'm specifically attuned to that, and so I bring that into my politics too. I think ultimately I don't want to be whether this influence comes from outside or inside me. I don't want to be what's that word, in a box. I don't want to be relegated to this type of belief or this type of music genre or this type of this or this type of. Leave me the fuck. I'm going to do whatever I want, and tough shit. And so yeah, I've amassed a good clique of followers and fans, especially on Instagram. I have 22.6 thousand followers.
Dang, congratulations.
Yeah, but again, something I posted earlier today has, like, I think 22 likes. So, thanks a lot,
Mhm.
white liberals. But anyway, because they're anti-racist, Brian. It's because they care so much about brown people that they need to censor one of them.
Well, thank God they're here to take care of you, because daggone it, it's not like you would have the own self-reliance on your own to get on your own 2 feet and deal with your own shit. You know,
Exactly. And it's not like the adults who have volunteered to see more of my content want to see it. No, that the white liberals in fucking Menlo Park, California, because I've been to Facebook headquarters, creepy fuck place. I've been there. The white liberals in Menlo Park, California know what's best for you. You don't know what's best for you. You need to be protected from opinions and ideas that are outside of what the white liberals want. It's because they care, everybody. Fucking
Mhm.
cocksuckers.
Don't hold back. Tell them what you really think, these guys. Um, no, it just it amazes me, and it's kind of funny. We've got a mutual friend in Mike Harlow, who's probably one of the coolest dudes walking around, and he keeps wanting me to write something for, and I'll just go and tell you this, it's not any big secret. He wants me to write something for Walkaway, and which I'm cool. I'm good with it, doing that. But my story is a little bit different. I grew up conservative, but if you ask me where my journey is now from, like, let's say 5 years ago, I would make an argument I've radically changed, because talk about being a doctrinaire Republican up until maybe 2017. And then all of a sudden, Bad Man Orange comes along. And boy, talk about having the curtain pulled back, and you're realizing, man, we got a bunch of corrupt mother effers all over the place on both sides here. And it's worse than that. I mean, the day I'll just, for anybody who cares to know, the day I left the Republican Party was January 20th, 2021. And some people have occasionally asked me, "Oh, you left the party because of Trump?" No, I left the party because of the way the party treated Trump.
Mm.
That's when I left. And but my point is this: it's like, I think I've, like everybody, and it's kind of interesting because there's a fascinating phenomenon that I'm noticing. We'll get into it in a minute. But for me, it's not so much an ideological transformation as it is having my eyes open and realizing, whoo, man, we are being ruled over by some pretty evil freaking people here.
Right.
it's incredible to me.
Yeah, and in extension of that, I personally find that the libertarian movement has flowered in a lot of ways. And don't get me, we can talk shit about libertarians all day long, but I think libertarians are a little more conservative these days, and conservatives are a little bit more libertarian these days.
I'll agree with that. I'll absolutely agree with that.
I think COVID made us go like, wait a second, what the
Hmm.
fuck is going? What you're going
Yeah.
to tell people what they need to do, what they need to put in their bodies? You're going to segregate 60%. Just as a fun little side note, keep this in your backhand, or in the back of your head, everybody. As of February of 2022, just as the mandates were ending, according to the CDC, only 40.5% of Black Americans were fully vaccinated. That means that the people who chanted Black Lives Matter the most, white liberals, who were the main predominant push, I'm not talking about politicians, the main predominant amateur push behind the mandates, which were white liberals, were willing to segregate 60 fucking percent of Black Americans, and yet still to this day believe themselves to be the party of anti-racists. Just keep that in your head, everybody.
My question is, in a case like that, what's the difference between the modern white liberal and George Wallace? Nothing. Not a thing. Not a thing.
Right.
I mean, seriously. I
Right.
mean, we're not going to let kids be integrated into schools, George Carly Wallace. I mean, say what you want to about the man, and it's just like what. So my question is, respectfully to modern liberals, what's the difference between you and George Wallace? Nothing. I mean, Wallace was just blatant about it. He's like, nope, you're not coming into our schools. You're not going to, be using our water fountains. You're not going to be doing anything else. We're not going to let you have voting rights and anything else. Okay, we'll just segregate you on the basis of the fact you won't get a vaccine, and you'll deal with it.
And the fulcrum, and I think, because humans are complicated motherfuckers, the blind spot for them, and this is something I really like to put out to the people listening. Yes, it's fun to troll them. It's important to troll them. It's important to point out the hypocrisy and be shooting from the hip. But let's be real for a second. It's not that they hate America. They think they have good intentions. It's their good intentions that have made them blind. It's not stupidity. Some of these motherfuckers have degrees as long as your leg.
Mm-hmm.
It's good intentions that have made them, given them the horse blinders. I can't think outside of this very specific narrow view, because it's Marxism 101. That's Marxism 101. Anytime, whether it be fucking Robespierre or the Mao, or whoever helps the revolution along, will also be in the gulag. Okay, and whoever is, because you're an enemy of the revolution too, because you're not leftist enough. Oh, you posted Black Lives Matter, but you didn't say Black Trans Lives Matter, because it's built on a thing of abuse, right? Now, governments, authorities, and fuck that word, but governments know the difference. What's that thing that Hillary said? You mentioned it. Basket of deplorables.
There is a basket of deplorables out there in America.
Hillary didn't actually believe that. Can we be clear about that? She knows people. She's been friendly. This is the thing you were talking about I mean, and don't get me wrong, I do believe she does want us in a re-education camp, but she's not the same as, some crunchy bitch on the Upper East Side who doesn't know any better and still watches Daily Show, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
She's different, because the crunchy bitch genuinely believes these things. Hillary Clinton knows Republicans. She knows Donald Trump. She knows these different people, right? And she's more interested in using whatever tools are in her disposal to maintain power and money, right? So she'll use woke, right? Just like George Bush used patriotism. Can I ask you a question as a guy who left the Republican Party?
Sure.
where do you feel? Because it doesn't, but I'm interested because it is rare for me these days to meet somebody who grew up that way. Did you see government overreach, the Republican, when it was Republicans doing it in 02, 03?
No, and I'll tell you why. Because I drank the Kool-Aid. My country had been attacked. By God, we're going to get justice. And if we got to go over the world, root these bastards out of whatever cave or rat hole they're hiding in, that's fine. I didn't realize what kind of surveillance state we were setting up. I didn't realize how bad the Patriot Act could get. And I wish my 51-year-old self could go back and talk to myself in my early 30s and be like, hey, Brian, you're getting suckered here. I bought off on weapons of mass destruction. I bought off on the argument that said, we got to go over there to fight them there, or else we're going to be fighting them here. I bought off on the argument that said Saddam's going to pass this stuff around the Middle East. And when people started coming forward, like David Kay, the weapons inspector from the UN, Scott Ritter, and others saying, guys, we're not finding anything. I'm like, no. They moved it across the border into Syria. That's all that they've done. They just slipped it right over the border. Well, that's why we're not finding it. No. It was never there to begin with. It was a pretense to set up a lot of stuff that we're now feeling the full effect of. Right. So, yeah, I'd love to go back and talk to myself at that age. Right. Knowing what I know now. That's why I'm watching what's happening now. I mean, why not? We'll just swerve into this one. I've watched for 2.5 years my country pump money down a rat hole in Ukraine. And we're giving money, we're giving weapons, we're making arms manufacturers in the United States just happy as a clam because God knows they're getting rich off of this crap. Well, now all of a sudden everybody's realizing, Ukraine's not working out. Oh, we have a thing breaking out in Israel. Well, let's just send 2 carrier groups down there and camp them right off the coast of Israel on the Mediterranean and do whatever. And I'm thinking, oh, God, here we go again.
Right.
Here we go again.
Right.
And then I'm praying, and I am praying. There are so many historical parallels right now. I mean, I did a video the other night, and right now it's being reported that there are Americans being held hostage in Israel, at the hands of Hamas. And I thought, oh God, this just feels like the Iranian hostage crisis all over again. I'm like, and I'm watching all this happen, and I'm like, Jesus God, no, please no, don't. We're not about to go down this path again. And not just the hostage crisis. It's like, I can see it being set up. And I'm like, I am praying, God, somebody's got the good sense to step in and either de-escalate this thing or whatever, because we're heading down a very dangerous path. Sorry, I didn't mean to go off on a tangent. But
no, I appreciate hearing that from someone who calls himself a conservative, because it is a little disheartening that a lot of people have. What we're talking about right now, everybody, is complicated. So if this is the intellectual deep end, and if you don't want to be here, go the fuck somewhere else. And I'm not saying leave Brian's show. I want Brian to have the view.
Thanks a lot, man. I bring you on, and now you're running off of people.
But we have to. One of the things that we should have learned, and I believe most of us did, just we're quiet right now and a little disparate.
Yeah.
Is that one of the things we must have learned from the last 3 years is to be circumspect and to check ourselves. Why is something trending? Why am I? Oh, okay. Well, no one's watching mainstream media anymore. Do you think that the machine, the malevolence, the lizards, whatever, haven't caught on to that? Right? So they're using the algorithm to do the same thing that the mainstream media did. Right? So Israel, whether or not we like it, whether or not we are done talking about it, whether it is going to continue to trend, right? Just like I'm pushed down in the algorithm, they'll raise things in the algorithm depending on whatever it suits. Here's the other thing that adds some complication to it. Similarly, like what you're saying, I've heard conservatives for the last year plus 2 years say, hey, stop sinking money into Ukraine. Hey, what the fuck? That's somewhere else. This has nothing to do with us, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying by what I'm about to say doesn't mean fuck those dead kids. It
Right.
doesn't mean fuck those hostages. See where we're going? We're delineating, separating the tragedy that cocksuckers do to other people, right? From the malevolence of government, from the state. The state is different than the people, right? And I tweeted about that earlier. Even far back, I've been talking about the fucking ADL for a long fucking time, okay? Because they've been one of the main proponents of fear mongering. Does that feel familiar to COVID, everybody? And
Mhm.
censorship. That feels familiar to COVID, right? Similar to what we've heard from a lot of, it's a trope, and I think Obama literally said it with his fucking mouth out on purpose on video once. Never let a tragedy go to waste, right?
Mhm.
So does that mean we do 110% nothing? I'm not saying that necessarily. I don't know. There's something to be said for helping. But if a government says, give me that cookie, they don't just want a cookie. We've learned that, haven't we? 2 weeks to slow the spread turned into 2 fucking years in New York, right? In Texas, they were done a couple months, but God bless this fucking state. But anytime that happens. So, what we're exactly like what you're talking about, I'm watching these conservatives go, hey, fuck Ukraine, or not fuck Ukraine. Hey, we're not, this is not our fight. And all of a sudden go, oh my God, this is our fight. Guys, hang on, right? Um, and I think it's important to pause and pump the brakes because we need to first turn inward, I think individually, as a collective society, conservative, libertarian, whatever, as a human fucking race. As soon as a tragedy happens, we need to step back. That's why I didn't fucking talk about it for days.
Yeah.
Not because I don't have stuff to say, it's because I don't want to solidify my opinions, plural, until I sit back and go, hang on, let's wait what happens. I will say, I did say one thing. I said, I'm not going to be influenced by fucking fear, whether you want me to or not. I don't care if it's coming from Fox Fuck News or CNN. Fuck fear first and foremost. Okay. I step back and I go, who wants me to feel something? Who benefits from me feeling something? Okay. I'm going to go do laundry and get coffee.
Yep. Yep. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. I had a teacher years ago who taught me an invaluable lesson. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. What's the very next thing you should say?
What?
Who's pushing Humpty and what's in it for them? And he said, he looked at all of us and said, I know that's extremely cynical, and you're sitting there going, oh, that's a horrible way to look at the world. But if you stop and think about it, how many times is that answer to the rhyme appropriate? How many times is that question so on the nose, spot on?
Mhm.
Who's pushing Humpty and what's in it for them? I mean, and it's like, okay, we got to do something about Israel. We got to do something about Israel. We got to do something about Ukraine. I don't have to do anything about Ukraine. I don't have to do anything about Israel.
Mhm.
Only thing I have to do is what is in the best interest of my nation, which is
Mhm.
what I'm hoping our leaders actually believe in doing anymore. But um, it's amazing to me because you talked about something that I find fascinating, and it's that there is a great, I'm calling it the great convergence, and Carrie Smith and I talked about this briefly, and it's one thing I love about the fact you're down in Texas. There is this enclave of y'all freedom loving.
Oh yeah.
God bless y'all, and you and Carrie and her husband Anthony kind of get together and do music and stuff like that. But the theory that I posited to her was there is a convergence where people are coming to a spot. Don't ask me where this spot is. It's more like an intellectual plane.
Mhm.
And the people who are traveling to the spot are coming there by such extraordinary paths. I mean, you've got walkaway people like Brandon Straka and Mikey Harlow and Carrie Smith and a whole bunch of others. They're walking a path to the spot. You've got people in the nerd space like Gary Beekler from Nerdrotic and a whole bunch of other cats. They're coming to it. You've got free speech advocates like Chrissy Mayer and Gina Biscotti and yourself and a whole bunch of, they're coming to the spot, and everybody's standing around looking at each other, realizing, the hell are you doing here? That's what and the other guy looks back and goes, the hell are you doing here? I don't know, man. But and then they start talking to each other, which is what you're talking about. And people start realizing, holy crap, we agree on a whole lot more stuff than we ever disagreed on. Why didn't we do this sooner? And then we all start realizing, well, crap, somebody's been trying to keep us divided apart all this time.
That's what I'm fucking saying. I've even said this. I've even said this about, you want to know, you want to hear something? You okay to go a few more minutes?
Dude, we can go as long as you want to. You just, I said, that's why I usually ask, how long do you want to go for? It's entirely up to you.
Right. This is something that I think, and again, this is the intellectual deep end. I feel like what we're doing is we're coming together, and because we don't necessarily have a solidified label, that's scary. But have the labels that are secure served us? No. Or are they serving us now?
I'll argue that they are relics. I mean, the intellectual construct of liberal versus conservative, right versus left, Republican versus Democrat, they don't apply anymore, at least not in my book. I mean, to me, the greater argument is, to me, the delineation is techno-fascism on one side, right, and individual freedom on the other. And techno-fascism, I identify it as a perverse combination of governmental fascism and technology. And somehow they've been melded together in an amalgamation that one feeds the other. Government's feeding the tech side of it, the tech's feeding the government, and it's creating the hive mind.
Right.
Where we all got to look the same, act the same, think the same, be the same, and just we're taking all the joy and pleasure out of life because the bees have to buzz at the exact same pitch together. And when the bee doesn't buzz at the pitch of the hive, that bee's got to be put out of the hive because they're not one of us anymore.
Right. And I'm going to throw this out there. This idea, I was going to talk about something controversial, but I'll say this because I feel like it fits better into your point there.
You mean it hasn't been controversial up to this point? You're holding back on me? What the hell?
No. I want to give everybody a bit of a white pill. You know what the white pill is, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to win. Sorry, but we are, right? Mm-hmm. Yep. Now, some people approach that we're going to win from books that were written a while ago that talk about a higher entity, right? Mm-hmm. Some people come at it from knowing history. Some people come at it from, lots of different things. And I don't care where you come at it from. But we are going to win because here's the thing. There's too many of us, as we've already demonstrated in our conversation here and talking about it during our conversation. Too many people have woken up. Why do you think that they are getting as frantic as they are? It's not because we're docile, right? It's because we are a threat, right? The thing is that, and I looked at this up recently, there are 700,000 cops in the country. Okay. We are 331 million people.
Yeah.
Right? Now, you may hear that, other people, not you, Brian, but like other people may hear that and think he's anti-cop. Kind of. But no. But no.
Well, of course he's anti-cop. He's Puerto Rican. I mean, what would the hell would you say? It was low-hanging fruit, folks. I couldn't help myself.
I appreciate it. Good thing I don't have my knife on me, mate. But, right, so objectively, they are the enforcement arm, malevolent or otherwise, they are the enforcement arm of the government, right? So we outnumber them by a Fuckload. Here's another thing you need to understand. Military, there are I think there might be 2 million now, 2 million. We're 331, right? I'll bring you another statistic. There are more guns owned by amateurs, not the military, not cops, whatever, although they're a large part of it. But there are more guns in this country than there are people, right? So not only do we outnumber them, we also outgun them. The thing is that you also, I mean, when you look at history, when you look at over and over rhythms like this happen, and right now feels a little scary, but that's just because they want us to feel scared. They benefit off of us feeling scared. They benefit off of us feeling, oh, another loss. My guy didn't win. Right? If we turn fucking inward individually, we bring that peace, that more centered, balanced, hang on, I'm not going to follow this, all together, ta-da, we already won. The emperor does not have any fucking clothes on, and he knows it. But he needs to tell you and browbeat you and make you feel small. What was COVID? We saw it in New York City. There were mandates. Oh, the mandates. I know 2 businesses who were openly not complying. They had visits from cops. They were vaguely threatened by cops. But to this day, they have faced 0 legal consequences, 0 actual fines for not checking, for vocally not complying. What does that tell me? That tells me that the machine, the emperor, needs me to make myself small. The jackboots, there's only 600, 700,000 of those motherfuckers. And a lot of those guys are actually on our side.
Yeah.
So they can't handle how complicated and nuanced and disparate and rebellious, especially Americans, it's in our fucking blood, kids. They can't handle us. So they need us to make ourselves small. And I fucking refuse. I'm done. Been there, done that. Brian is another one of those. Kerry Smith is another one. There's countless of us. And my problem with liberals is not, sometimes, yeah, it's the fundamental disagreements, but it's more that they are serving and providing more power and money to the lizards. They're providing more, they're still subservient, arm behind the back, to the government. Same thing with conservatives who are like, we need to go over there and kill Hamas. Bro, you're giving a blank check. You think government is not going to take that blank check from fucking Israel? Stop, bro. Right?
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I'm just saying we're leveling up. It's rocky. It's uncomfortable. But I know from personal experience that there is no way out but through.
Yeah, I think we are at an interesting turning point in history. And some people call it the fourth turning. I don't necessarily have my own fancy term for it. It's just I can feel a generational shift. I can feel an intellectual shift. Ask me to define it per se, I can't. But I mean, my sphere of content creation deals with politics and cult. Sometimes I touch on culture, but I'm watching what's happening in Washington D.C. and other places around the world, and I'm going, "Yep, it's coming." And it's not just a generational shift; it's an intellectual shift. I mean, the arguments that we're having about places like Ukraine, Israel, and other hot spots in the world, we're now actually beginning to have an honest to God debate about. Well, we've got to intervene here. Why? What? How dare you ask me why? No, I want to know. Explain to me why the blood and treasure of the United States need to be spent somewhere else in the world. What is our interest in this? Or it's like that great line that Michael Corleone had in The Godfather 3. It says, hey, I'm a pop culture
Number 3, though, Brian. How
No,
dare
wait. Do you remember the scene when Joey Saza is in
No, I
Michael's
never seen
office?
it.
Okay, there's this great scene where at the beginning of the movie, Michael Corleone receives this award from the Catholic Church for charitable giving and do-gooding and such sort of thing. Well, there's a street level, I shouldn't say street level, he's medium in the mafia, guy by the name of Joey Saza. Very John Gotti type sort of character. Well, Andy Garcia, who plays a distant relative of Al Pacino's Michael Corleone, they're in Michael's office, and the word gets around on the street. So Andy Garcia's character looks at Al Pacino's character and says, "Well, he's walking around the street saying fuck Michael Corleone." Well, what? And then Al Pacino's character, Michael Corleone, looks at Andy Garcia's character and says, "What is this to me? What does this have to do with me? Has he done anything to me directly? No." Then he turns to the guy playing Joey Saza and says, "Of course, anyone who would say this is obviously not a friend. Would you not agree, Joey?" In other words, he's getting his point across, but the idea being, what does this have to do with me? And I think the American people are getting there. They're asking themselves, what does this have to do with us? We're the most compassionate people in the world. We will try to bring peace wherever possible. At least we used to. That's a side note. But what does this have to do with us?
Right.
I mean, my running joke about Lindsey Graham is, Lindsey's never seen a war he didn't want to get someone else's kids killed in.
Right.
And, and I'm not there anymore. I'm like, no, unless you can show me how this directly affects us, the United States, their fight, y'all deal with it. We'll try and help you bring peace if you want to sit down at the table.
Right.
But that's it. But yeah, we're at a very unique point in world history and American history, actually. So it's fascinating to be alive at this time. Absolutely fascinating.
And I'll bring it a step further because it feels like my initial reaction, and I know it. I don't necessarily trust that overly emotional. Well, but what about that tragedy, guys? How did they get in that tragedy?
Yeah.
Would Hamas been able to do what they did without our intervention?
Mhm.
What? What do you mean? $6 billion fucking dollars,
Thank
comma,
you.
comma, and a long time worth of our good intentioned intervention has set up whether or not, okay, if they're our ally, does that mean that we check them every time they do something wrong? No, because we have to, they're our ally, right? If my homeboy, right, and he's doing some foul shit, but I need to still maintain, I might in a dark room, in a back room, be like, dude, you shouldn't cheat on her, man. Come on, man. Your girlfriend's a good woman, blah, blah, blah. But I'm not going to call him out. He's my boy, right?
Yeah.
I'm speaking metaphorically, ladies and gentlemen, but I'm just saying, like, but if our ally that we trade a shit ton of money and power and influence, and we get to go over there, I'm a politician, I get to go over there and they provide me with the best prostitutes, right? If that is the case, you know what I mean? If my intervention, if our influence has already set them up to be hurt, the individuals, the amateurs, then that's a problem, And I'll also say that, and I talked about it earlier, maybe, but that unfortunately, it's not just us here. It's also the Palestinians. It's also Hamas that has conflated Israel with Jews. Right? Remember in Patriot Act, we were talking about George W. Bush. If you criticize what America is doing, you're anti-American, right?
Oh, I hate that line of intellectual argument.
Right? But that's what George Bush did, right? That's what a lot of that American, we have to have vengeance, and we did it, right? You talked about it earlier. So criticizing Israel separate from Jewish people, especially the fucking kids, especially the women, especially the amateurs who just are trying to get to their fucking lives, right? So not only has the conflation happened on our level, right, but also the conflation has happened from fucking motherfuckers like Hamas, right? Because, well, the state is doing it, punish the people. What? Right? I tweeted about it the other day, and this is only in Minecraft, ladies and gentlemen. I would never, ever, ever say something like this. But, there were people protesting, and this isn't even that bad, to tell you the truth. I'm not going to get you in trouble, don't worry. But there were people protesting in Staten Island outside the migrant facilities, right? And
Mhm.
flashing lights and shouting outside the migrant facilities, go home, we don't want you. Now, I'm not saying I disagree with the spirit, but wouldn't that protest be more effective outside of politicians' homes? Wouldn't it be? Just objectively, who's making the decision to set up that shelter? Is it the migrants? Who's welcoming them in? Is it the migrants? Right? I'm not saying that they're good people. For the most part, I'm sure they're whatever, blah, blah, blah. But a lot of, we've talked about it, well, maybe not you and I, but yeah, a lot of motherfuckers who are coming over, military aged men. I know fear mongering cocksuckers. I understand
Sure.
that's true. But wouldn't the protest be more effective if it was pointed in the right direction? Just like Hamas is like, oh, Israel. Okay, do you have a problem with the fucking kids, you pieces of shit? Or do you have a problem with the government? Right? Now, I know they're gated off and they're protected in their ways, blah, blah, blah. But I'm just saying a protest, right? Do you understand what I'm getting at? I'm
Oh
just
yeah, absolutely.
effective
Absolutely.
definitions, not,
Yeah.
spraying it everywhere,
Well, and I mean, and this and we were talking about intellectual constructs. I mean, and the other intellectual construct that's just to me that's amazing in this age is the haves and have-nots. There's an elitist class that
Mhm.
rules either in government or technology, or in some cases both, and then there's the rest of us. And when the ruling elite is challenged, they're looked down upon us like, how dare you challenge us with our good intentions and our education? We know so much better than you do how to organize your life, and if you just give us more money and more power, we'll make your life better. Well, we keep giving them more money and power and realize, oh hey, I liked it better when I was in charge of my own crap.
Mhm.
My life seemed to be going a hell of a lot better when I was running it for myself. Thank you very much. I think I'm a little bit tired of giving you, so much authority over me. And then it's like, no, you can't stop giving me your money and your power because we have this thing now we have to maintain. The institution, don't you understand? We have to maintain this machine because it's now created and it's running and we can make it self-sustaining if you just keep giving us money and power. And I think we're reaching a point of critical mass where something's got to give
Mhm.
because the have-nots are saying no, enough, we're done. It's our government, we want it back. It's our whatever it may be, we want it back. And it's going to be fascinating to watch how that plays out over the next few years. It really is.
Right.
Well, let's switch gears just ever so slightly because I want to ask you about this because I was trying to do my research to get ready for tonight, and I found the following. Oh, wait. Where'd you go? Oh, there we go. There's a happy looking young man. So, what's the story on this? I read this on your Instagram. What's the story on this?
So I graduated from audio production school in September of last year.
Okay.
I used to, I've known I'm a smart person from a long time, but we all have self-esteem issues, and I had a fucking big one, and I still have one a little bit, but it's gotten a lot better. And school was part of that because for a long time I told myself, college is for other people. I'm
Mhm.
street smart, I'm people smart, I'm not book smart. And that turned out to be bullshit because when the pandemic started, I lost my job and I was in my house all day. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to school. And so what would benefit my music career? Having the autonomy to produce and mix my own stuff. There you go. So I went to school online. It was 4 years of college smushed into 29 months. And I graduated second in my class with a 3.98 GPA
Congratulations.
and a bunch of awards in September of last year. Yeah. So, and I've been able to get paid for some of that work. Not a lot of it, but it's ramping up more and more. And I'm currently in a position where I get to utilize my degree to produce live sound, and yeah, feels good.
Congratulations. I mean, I saw that and I was like, yeah, I mean, it's funny you say it like the way you did because I remember my dad years ago, he always said there's three kinds of people in the world. And he was an old country boy. And the way he phrased it was he said there are people that have book learning, there are people who have horse sense, and then there's that person that's the rare combination of the two. And the way he described people who had, quote, book learning, he said, Brian, they if brains were gasoline, they wouldn't have enough to put it in a pissant's go-kart and run it around a small Cheerio once.
Hmm.
And I was like, graphic, but true. Because they could tell you everything about every theory imaginable. Ask them how to tie their shoes, couldn't do it. Couldn't fight their way out of a wet paper bag, couldn't anything.
Right.
You know. Then there's that, like my dad. My dad was extremely smart, but he didn't have a formal education. If my dad could sit down long enough and look at something, he'd go, "Okay, I know how I want." The best story about my dad. Forgive me here, I'm going on a tangent. We got our family farm back in 1985, and it had gotten in a bad shape.
Hmm.
One of the things Dad had to do was take a post, which was like a 10 by 10 post. He had to take it out of the barn because it just rotted from like 100 years of being there. So he went up in the woods, found a white oak that was as straight as a gun barrel, took a chainsaw with him, took off all the limbs, dragged it back down the pasture field. So I came down to the barn to see what he was doing. He had a hatchet and he was notching the thing so you could put the 2x8s in. And he looked at me and said, "Hey, I need you to get out of here." I'm like, "What?" "I need you to get out of here." "Why?" "Because I'm about to do something dangerous, and if anybody's neck's going to be in the noose, I want it to be mine." I said, "You sure?" He's like, "Yeah." I said, "Okay." Walked up to my sister's house, walked in the kitchen door, sat down at the table. My mom and my sister looked at me and said, "Where's Dad?" "He's down at the barn." "What's he doing?" "Oh, he's got a 20-foot beam he's putting up in the barn all by himself." By the time they all got down there, Dad had, and I was like, "What?" This was my dad. You give him long enough to figure out how to do something,
Hmm.
and he'll figure it out.
Hmm.
Ask him to derive the quadratic equation. No idea.
Right.
You know. So yeah, I mean, I just love when snooty people look down their nose and be like, "I can't believe you don't agree with me. If only you had my education." Thank God I don't have your education. That's why I'm as smart as I am.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, but I found that and I was like, "Oh, we got to ask about this. We really do." So I mean, where do you see your music career going? Is it going to be engineering and producing, or is it going to be performance, or where do you see it going from here?
I see it mostly writing and performing. It's been a bit of a lull, just because I feel more pulled to make memes. I feel more pulled to make a podcast right now. I'm
Hmm.
still working on some music. Don't worry, everybody. But I'm no longer beating myself up for having a different type of inspiration. You know what I mean? So like I'll put up, I remember Quentin Tarantino and Fiona Apple on this episode of some conversation in interview show or whatever. Fiona, I think, said, my job as the creator is not to actually make the thing. Like my job is to hold up the antenna, and when the signal comes through, then I create. But if there's no signal coming through, my job is just to wait, right? Because ultimately, whether you, and I don't think she believes in a God necessarily, but like, I hold up that antenna, and wherever the inspiration, I'll tell you, my favorite stuff that I create is stuff that I remember. One song, I was like in bed and I had just woken up, and it just fucking flowed out, and I was just like, oh, I'm like crusts in my eye, and I'm getting a piece of paper and a pen, like writing oh yeah, chuckling to myself as I write, because my music's frequently funny. But but then there's stuff that I've labored over for days. How do I make the hours? And I'll put it on the back burner for fucking years. And then when the inspiration comes, and not to force it. So to answer your question, I think mostly it'll be performing. I'm not a, as you can tell, I'm not a background guy. Ah,
No, I had no idea. No, you're so quiet and demurring, and just
exactly,
so you're almost like a wallflower. If someone didn't notice you were in the room, you'd be might possibly overlooked. Just
exactly.
saying.
So I like being out there, but honestly, I want it to be a full package, and for that, I complain, rightfully so, about being censored and shadow banned, but the people who have followed me and who are my fans are people I've earned, right? Same, I'm
Yeah.
sure, as you.
Yeah.
But it's I and I'm not saying this to be a martyr, because I know that can be that way. But like I'd rather do it the slow, authentic way. And so I have people who love me and love my music but hate my podcast, and then I have the exact opposite. Who love my show but can't really get in my music, or vice versa, and that's fine, because where I'm coming from is consciously having these different genres, not because I'm doing anything, it's not contrived, it's genuine, but I want them sold on me. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? When Trent Reznor puts out an album, are they all good? No, fuck no. But I'm sold on him. So regardless of what comes down the pike, I'll listen to it. I'll give it a shot. And I'll always be sold on the fact that he created what he created. Was he a little bit of a bitch leaving Twitter because of Elon Musk? Yes. But 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 I'm sold on him, meaning like he's one of those people who can't stop creating, and I believe I'm one of those people too. So where it'll go, I don't know. I know I've definitely got a song in the works. It's a little short one, but I've got a little political song that kind of shoots it everywhere. And I'm pretty proud of it. And it'll probably be out within the next few months. I've got a song, a collaboration song that I'm working on with this punk girl in this Mexicana, who's her name's Diana Death, underground punk legend, and she and I are working on a track, a cumbia song. Do you know what
Oh,
cumbia is?
I know. I cannot say that I do, to be perfectly honest.
Very
Yeah.
Latin, very whatever.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we're working on that, and yeah, so I've got some music in the works. I actually just finished a song for a friend's short film, which will be out in a couple of months. It's like a meditation song. Again, I like it all. I want my finger in every fucking pie. I've got enough fingers for it. Yeah, so I'm having fun.
Let me ask you a question, because I had a conversation the other night with a content creator named Culture Casino. You probably heard of him. His speciality is the business side of Hollywood, and he's been on my channel now a couple of times because, and the reason, and I highly recommend him to you if you're ever wanting to get behind the curtain of Hollywood.
Right.
Yeah, but understand why Hollywood's acting in a business sense the way they are. He's one of those dudes that I will recommend to you. And one of the questions I love to ask him has to do with what I call old Hollywood or old media versus new media. For example, what you and I do, you've got conservative, I've got the electronic front porch, and other content creators have what they have. And I want to, in that same vein, I want to ask you this as it relates to music. Are you noticing, or I mean, you described that San Francisco as a music scene is dead. New York City as a music scene is dead. Austin seems to have a certain liveliness to it. Are you noticing, I mean, beyond the scene, if I'm going to use that term, are you noticing that there is and I hate using this word, but I can't come up with anything else off the top of my head, a political divide in music? It's like, I mean, for example, Chrissy Mayer, when it comes to comedy, will tell you that because of her stances on the vaccine, COVID-19, masks, etc., there were comics in New York just absolutely like, she was like, Hester Prynne wearing the scarlet letter. Nobody wanted anything to do with her. Same thing with Biscotti, same thing with Cumia, etc. Are you noticing the same thing? Not necessarily political, but it seems like, is old music and new music, is there like this great divide in the same way that there's divide between old media and new media?
Well,
Or where is the fault line? Maybe that's a better way to ask the question.
I don't know. I mean, this is the thing about being a content creator. If it was fair, it still would be unfair.
Hmm.
But like, here's
Yeah.
what I mean. Back in the day, the way you got big was like a hose. There was all this water in this giant tub, all these different, but there was one avenue. You get a record contract, and then they push you up. Now, all of that has been flattened, right? As much as people, I mean, there are still record companies.
Sure.
Who the fuck cares, right? But anyway, and people consume music differently. You know, back in our day, I'm sure more yours because you're 48,000 years old. But
That I'm 51,000 years old. Damn it.
um,
There. Let's get that
there's
straight.
you consumed music because you listened to an album, you took it home, it was a private experience, you live,
Yeah.
you whatever, you sit down with this thing and you get sold on this artist this way. Now the spigot, like I said, because the analogy is leaving me, but it was much more narrow. Now all of that's been flattened and we're all kind of jumping, 2 inches in the air rather
Sure.
than this other one which was squished and hard to get through, but then you get shot 30 feet in there.
Yeah.
So it's a different landscape. Politics has made it difficult in certain ways, but not really, right? Um, I keep thinking about that fucking dude from a couple months ago. What's his name? The redhead with the
Oh, Anthony Oliver. Oliver Anthony.
yeah,
Richmond, north of Richmond. Yeah.
yeah. I can't. This is peppered. I'm pointing the finger at myself. Yes, I'm jealous. Okay. God damn it. But
Mother plucker. It's like, yeah.
but objectively, in my defense, part of the thing is that I don't make political music very frequently. You know what I mean? Like a
Yeah.
lot of the stuff is tongue in cheek funny. It's over the top, but it's also, I write songs about, I have one that's about death. I have one that's about ego. I have one that's about, on my first album that I came out with in 2019. So it's available on Spotify and iTunes, just self-titled, everybody. But, I have a song that's from the perspective of a Mexican prostitute in the 1800s. You know what I mean? Like I'm all over the place, and I intentionally have set myself up that way. Is that the slow game? Yes. Would I like to, in some ways, be Oliver Anthony? Yes. But I also wouldn't want to be pigeonholed into a political musician. I'm sorry, I just don't. And I understand that I'm going about it the hard way. And I understand, and I'm not saying I'm a hero for it. It's a problem. Patrice O'Neill, the greatest comedian of all time, used to say, like, having authenticity in this business is stupid, but you can't help it. You know what I mean? Like, he couldn't help it. I can't help it. But, I remember once I went to a Queensryche. Do you remember Queensryche?
I remember Queensryche. Yes.
I went to a Queensryche concert because some mentor of mine was a fan, and I bought tickets and we went. And it was, they hadn't been famous since the early 90s or whatever, but, it was 2014, 2015. And it was the Operation Mindcrime Tour 2015 or whatever. It was this album that they had, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I look around the audience, at the backs of everybody, they all have like band t-shirts on, tour t-shirts, and it's Operation Mindcrime Tour 2012, Operation Mindcrime Tour 2010, Operation Mindcrime Tour 2019, 29. So I'm like looking around, I'm like, oh, they got big. And whether or not it's malevolence or greed or because, hey, this is the only way for us to get people to come out to our shows so we can play them new shit, regardless, it's in a box. It's in a box. And I don't want to be that. I don't want to just push button. I want to be able to speak freely on my fucking show. I want to be able to make memes. I want to be able to follow the intuition that I'm getting through the fucking antenna, And so, yeah. I'm Jesus. No, I'm just
kidding. Puerto Rican Jesus. Let's clear up. Yeah, Puerto Rican Jesus. No, I mean, I wholeheartedly agree. I get all these advertisements all the time. Hey, if you go with us, we can get you, 3,000 subs and 10,000. And I'm like, no. Right. If you come to my channel and you subscribe, by George, I want you to do it because you like my work. You don't have to agree with me. I tell people this all the time. You do not have to agree with me about a single solitary thing. Right. But if you come here and you sub to my channel, you're like, you know what? I may not agree with this joker, but he'll let me say what I want to say, and we can actually talk about it. And I know you're discovering this being in Austin, but you've known this for years. Is it not the most frustrating thing in the world that you can't have a conversation with a liberal?
Right.
I mean, and I'm not just asking this to you. I'm asking this to the audience because everybody's gone through this at one time or another. Because liberals are like, we're open minded, we're tolerant, we believe in diversity. Okay, let's talk. Nope, nope, nope. I don't want to discuss politics. Wait a minute. What the hell happened to we're open minded, we're tolerant, and we're diverse?
Right.
Because you just shot that right out the window.
Right.
No, I want the best example of this, and slightly different context. Dr. Peter Hotep of Baylor University. Yeah, you know where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
He makes his comment on Twitter or something or another is said, and Rogan says something, he says something back, and Robert Kennedy Jr. comes over and says, well, fine, let's go on Rogan's show and talk about it. Rogan's like, fine, I'll give you $100,000 your favorite charity. And then everybody chimes in. This thing's like over $1 million. Hotep won't do it.
Right.
Well, he's a lawyer. Well, what does that have to do with it?
Right.
What does that have to do?
And do you know Derek Bros?
I think I've heard the name.
Houston cat, big into freedom. He was running for mayor, but the mayor of Houston, the incumbent, got him kicked off of the ballot in Houston. And why? Because of an old drug offense, nonviolent drug offense that didn't preclude him from running for mayor in 2019 for some reason. But anyway, Derek Bros, Broze, sweetheart of a guy. He has a couple of, he got him on one, Peter Hotez or Hotep or whatever. And then he tried to get him onto an interview for the second time, and Hotez ran away.
Yeah. Wait a minute. I mean, and this is one of my, and if you've had this frustration with people on the left, tell me. It amazes me. I mean, they claim to be smarter. They claim to be better. They claim that their ideas are more sufficient. They claim that everything about them and everything they want to do makes my life better. Yet you won't sit down and have a conversation with me to actually analyze your ideas in the naked public square and let the truth be burned away from the lies, and let's get to pure 100% gold truth. You won't do that. I mean, it's astounding to me.
Well, part of it is the psychology behind it, and then I'm fucking exhausted. I gotta go soon. But
No. I'll turn you loose here in a minute. I promise.
No, it's all right. But the psychology behind it is not that, again, like I said earlier, everybody, like, it's not that they hate America. Some do. The lizards at the top certainly fucking do. I do believe it's malevolence for a lot of the ones, and I do believe it's greed for some others, for the next echelon down. But for the non-Zaza or whatever, I'm trying to go back to that Godfather fucking reference. For the amateurs on the street, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the same reason why, let's talk about branding. It's the same reason why Biden says MAGA extremist, why that just rolls off the tongue, right? Mm-hmm. It's very carefully, not by him, but it's very carefully couched that way, because he needs to ascribe malevolent intentions to us.
Yep.
He needs to ascribe anti-trans. He needs to ascribe anti-racism. He needs to, partially because he's getting ready to justify doing some horrendous shit. So everybody make sure you get guns. But also because why would you have a conversation with someone who you believe is malevolent? Why would you have a conversation with someone who you believe has ill intent, right? Which is why I'm trying to help conservatives and libertarians or whatever do this self-care shit and talk about the psychology and meditate and pray and get off of social media for an hour at a time. Oh, and before I go, I need to talk about that. But and it's because the other side, we have to be better than them. We have to be more circumspect. I don't believe that they are my enemy. Are they supporting my enemy? Fucks yeah. Will I troll them and poke holes in their argument anytime they come into my fucking page? Absolutely. When, I always say, like, I make it a joke, but it's true. When somebody takes umbrage with something I have to say and they do it conscientiously without evil words, I'll engage with you. But when someone comes in swinging, that's racist, they're almost always white. Okay. And when I see that, I go, well, I'm a Puerto Rican, so my lived experience is more important than your opinion, colonizer. I use their exact and I shut their shit down because fuck you. You came swinging. You came in swinging, right? But I don't believe that they are my actual enemy. I
Yeah.
believe that the lizards, I believe that the government, I believe that the state needs to get its filthy little fucking paws off of my fucking life and off of all of our lives. So, and comma, I believe that the useful idiots are doing it not because they're idiots, but because they genuinely believe that that's the right thing to do. So why would they engage? They have ascribed malevolence to us. To over 50% of the country just from 2016 was deplorables, was racist, was this or that, blah, 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 blah. And by the fucking way, in 2012, when Mitt fucking Romney was running for president, what did Joe Biden say? They're going to put y'all back in chains. He said that in fucking 2012. And now we're, besides Trump, it was the slavery. It was and I'm so, by the way, fucking proud of black people. I'm so fucking proud that black people are waking up to the fucking smelly nonsense. So only the whitest of white liberals are still actively fucking Democrat. Come on, bro, stop. But can I put a plug in? A couple of
Absolutely, go right ahead.
Ladies and gentlemen, put down in your calendar for those who want to be involved. If you don't, that's fine. Put down in your calendar Thursday, November 9th. And what's going to happen on Thursday, November 9th? We're going to talk about something I started because I'm amazing, something called No Ad Dollar Day. No Ad Dollar Day. So Brian and I have faced censorship. Brian and I have faced shadow banning, have faced throttling, being throttled in the algorithm. And the mechanism of communication between us telling a company, as an example, the government, that mechanism of communication is broken, although it will be fixed when we have smaller government. But anyway, the mechanism of communicating between us and a monopoly is broken. Why would Mark Zuckerberg give a fuck that we don't want censorship? Why would he? Right? Because he's bankrolled by motherfuckers who do, right? Now, let's talk about who the bankrollers are. Advertisers, right? They pay a lot of money for that data. They pay a lot of money for that traffic. The way Mark Zuckerberg makes money, the way these social media companies make money is by our attention. They monetize our attention. If you and I go on Instagram for 30 minutes, 30 seconds, whatever, that is tracked. Where we go is tracked. And and the algorithm is specifically designed to keep you upset, happy, whatever, keep you coming, right? And you stay on longer, and that's tracked. And then that Instagram can go to Ford, can go to any other advertisers and say, look, we had these people stay on for these billions of fucking hours, more money now, right? Mm-hmm. And Ford will pay it, and Toyota will pay it, and fucking whoever else advertisers will pay it. So they are monetizing your attention. Now, how do we communicate we don't fucking like censorship? Is by taking away their ability to make money. Hitting them in their wallet is the only language they fucking speak, right? Mark Zuckerberg doesn't care about Black lives, right? It's because I'm not saying he hates Black lives. I'm saying he doesn't give a fuck. He wants money. And that's why all these corporations are going, oh, what am I supposed to say? Sure. Okay. Oh, what am I supposed to do? Cool. And the bankrollers, there you go. So no ad dollar day is a way for us to take the full day off of Instagram, of Facebook, of any Meta. And we can do it to other ones too. But for now, those are the really, really disgusting censors and shadow banners. We take our attention away from there, and you can go on X, and you can go on Spaces, and you can go on and you can go on, wherever. But just for one full fucking day, we consciously, loudly say, I'm not going on your fucking site. Suck my dick. You can't charge for my attention for one day. Their traffic will go down. Obviously, I haven't done it in a long time. I haven't done it in a year, but it's something, especially now that I have a lot more followers. Hopefully we can make at least a little small dent for this one and just say,
exactly.
Nope, we're taking our attention for one full day off of any Meta social media with one message: stop censoring us, you white piece of fucking dog shits. That's it. That's it. No other political whatever. Just let us talk freely. That's it. So it's one day, November 9th, Thursday. We take the full day off. I will find a way. I have a month-ish. I'll find a way for us to check in. Obviously, we'll check in on X. We'll check in on Discord. We'll check in on all these different all these platforms. But for one full day, we say fuck you to Meta. And it's called No Ad Dollar Day.
I'm marking that on my calendar.
Thank you, sir.
So as we're starting to wrap this up, and I want to give you the floor, if there's any one message that you want to leave with people who've been watching tonight or who are going to be watching this somewhere down the line, what do you want to say to them? And if they want to find out more about you, where can they reach out to you? Where can they find Conservatish? Where can they find Peter Feliciano's music? Where can they find everything that's making you right now?
Well, I mean, Conservatish is out. It's coming back this upcoming Monday. I sat down. Do you know Cody Wilson?
Yeah, I think so. I've heard of him.
The ghost gun guy. Anyway,
yeah.
So there's a documentary coming out in about 2 weeks. And there's going to be a couple premieres, Austin, New York, I think LA. And I sat down with the director, Jessica Solche, to talk about, because essentially it's a documentary on Cody Wilson. She followed him around for 8 years. And it's a fucking heavy, awesome, very liberty-centric movie. It's called Death Athletic is the name of the movie.
Okay.
And it's an incredible documentary. And so I sat down with the director, Jessica Solche, to discuss the movie and to discuss what it was like following around Cody Wilson, to talk about liberty, to talk about the Second Amendment, to talk about, the state. And that episode will be out Monday. So Conservatish, look for it. Also, like I said, No Ad Dollar Day on November 9th we're doing. Also, I will also throw in, before I finish with my final thoughts, that I'm helping a friend run for city council in New York City. Her name is Elizabeth Galuscio, Golluscio. And I would love for you two to chat. She's super based and very funny and just heart. She's a big, warm human being. And I'm kind of helping her come up with content. And we put on an event actually where Chrissy Mayer and Gino Bisconti performed at our comedy show. It was fucking great. I love those guys. But Elizabeth Galuscio is running for city council in District 5. I will put out a plug for her, not just, and everybody go follow her. It's Elizabeth, the number 4, NYC, elizabethfornyc.com, Elizabeth for NYC on Twitter and on Instagram. Yeah, she's literally in her district, in District 5. She got her sample ballot the other day. She is the only non-Democrat. Not just for city council, but for fucking like the judges, for all the different people on the ballot. She's the only dissenting opinion.
Jeez, the Lord Almighty.
Yes. So she's up against it, but she's got a lot of enthusiasm, and a lot of us are helping her and loving on her. And so she could use, obviously, your support if you can, but also her donations. It's expensive to print out. I think it was $2,000 just for the stamps to send shit out to the people. And she's got a fucking fascinating story. Just her trying to get on the ballot. I don't know if this happens anywhere else, but someone can petition a lawyer to get you kicked off of the ballot. So we don't know who paid the lawyer. Could have been her incumbent. Who knows? But they tried to get her kicked off the ballot because she wasn't a Democrat. And they succeeded when she was trying to run for the Medical Freedom Party. But they did not succeed when she was trying to run for the Republican Party. She's a non-Republican Republican. Same thing we've been talking about this whole time. She experienced the mandates, and she wants to make sure that shit doesn't happen, that crime goes down, and that whoever's coming into the country, please come, but do it the right way, do it documented. Help us out, like connect with us. Anyway, she's a badass. So Elizabeth for NYC, and give $5, $10. It always helps. Tell your New York friends about her. So I'll end by saying this. And it's an extension of what I've already talked about. Oh, and you can find my music online. Just Peter Feliciano. Just go listen, bastards. But as we've already talked about, the emperor would like us to make ourselves small. An element of that is us focusing real hard on the fucking presidential election and nothing on our local city council, nothing
Absolutely.
on our local judges, nothing on the district attorney, nothing on these people. Guess who does focus local? George Soros. George Soros focuses local. He pays motherfuckers to get elected against your benefit. He pays motherfuckers to put their greedy little fat fucking paws into your fucking bank account, into your kids' learning, into all this shit, into your gun rights. He focuses local. Why the fuck aren't you? Right? So, focus local, everybody. Who gives a fuck? In a way, I mean, yeah, I'm going to vote, blah, 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 whatever. But you know who has a lot more sway over my life than Joe fucking Biden? Is the motherfuckers in New York City who enforced Joe Biden getting up there and saying, we're a mandate, right? It's the police. It's the sheriff in New Mexico who told the governor, no, I'm not going to enforce gun laws, that gun law that you just enacted here. Fuck you. It's the sheriff, bitch. It's local. That's who has a lot more sway over my life. And I'll end with this. Things are going to work out. We are going to win. It's just fucking inevitable. Read The White Pill by Michael Malice. I love that motherfucker. And The White Pill is a great book because it literally shows how easy and simple it was to get rid of the Marxists. Like how easy it was that the communists actually imploded upon themselves, because that's what humans do when they are in power, right? So this is it's going to be okay. But don't make yourself small. Don't make yourself small.
Yeah, never ever sell yourself short. Mm-hmm. You are created in the image of God. You are endowed by your Creator with certain unalienable rights, and among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Peter, it has been an absolute joy having you on the Electronic Front Porch, brother. You are welcome back here anytime you want. If you got something burning on the brain, all right, you let me know when, dude. I'll be happy to do it. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, this has been an absolute joy. You are welcome back here anytime you want. You just let me know if it's burning on the brain. I will find a slot, brother. We'll do it at 3 a.m. I don't care. We're gonna have you back. So everybody, follow this man, sub to his channel, follow him on Twitter, follow him on Instagram. Help a brother out on my side of it. If you're not subscribed to my channel, please do. I'd love to have your support. Folks, we're going to end it up there. Peter, hang on for just a minute. We'll say some proper goodbyes. I will be back this Saturday morning with Front Porch Brunch, where we'll be doing a review of this week's news, and boy, is there a whole lot to talk about. So until 10:30 a.m. on Saturday morning, thanks for stopping by. We'll see you guys later.